Last week, we looked at the monarchs who ended their cousins, rulers who signed warrants or ordered condemnations to protect the crown. Harsh choices that defined generations of English history. But why did they get there? What drove them to those fatal decisions? Often, it was because of the times when mercy backfired, when a king spared a rival, showed hesitation, or let a cousin live, only to see rebellion and civil war follow. Again and again, those choices proved just as dangerous as the acts. Even an innocent, a child, a cousin, or a claimant without real power could become a symbol, a rallying cry for rebellion. In an age of fragile dynasties, mercy could be fatal. One of the clearest lessons came from Richard II. His cousin, Henry Bolingbroke, quarreled with another noble and was banished. Richard could have condemned him outright, but chose exile instead. At first, that seemed safe enough, but when Bolingbroke's father, John of Gaunt, died, Richard seized his cousin's vast estates. Suddenly, Henry had both a grievance and a claim. In 1399, while Richard campaigned in Ireland, Henry returned. He gathered support, reclaimed his inheritance, and seized the crown as King Henry IV. Richard was imprisoned, and within a year, he was gone in captivity. Starvation has been speculated. By sparing his cousin, Richard II lost not only his throne, but his life. It was a mistake his successors would not forget. A century earlier, hesitation plunged England into chaos. When Henry I died, his daughter Matilda had been named his heir, a decision that nearly made her England's first queen. But her cousin Stephen moved quickly and seized the throne. Neither was willing to destroy the other outright. Instead, they battled back and forth in grinding civil war known as the Anarchy. For nearly 20 years, England was torn apart, not because one cousin struck down the other, but because neither delivered a final blow. In the end, Stephen made peace, naming Matilda's son as his heir, but the kingdom had suffered for 2 decades because both cousins survived. During the Wars of the Roses, Henry VI was weak, indecisive, and vulnerable. His cousin, Richard, Duke of York, pressed a rival claim. At first, Henry did not move against him. For years, York lived and gathered power. That hesitation cost Henry dearly. The Wars of the Roses dragged on because a rival wasn't eliminated early. Eventually, Richard fell in battle, but by then, the war had become a family feud that consumed the kingdom for decades. Henry's downfall became a lesson for the next generation. When Edward IV seized the throne, he faced Henry's queen, Margaret of Anjou, and her son, Prince Edward of Westminster. At first, both survived, but Margaret fought on, raising armies in her son's name. Not until Edward of Westminster was cut down at Tewkesbury did the Lancastrian cause collapse. Edward IV had learned the hard lesson. Leave a rival alive, and you invite years of rebellion. And then came Henry VII, the founder of the Tudor dynasty. He knew better than anyone how dangerous a living rival could be. The disappearance of the princes in the Tower still haunted England. Without bodies, without proof, the boys remained a ghostly threat. Pretenders like Lambert Simnel and Perkin Warbeck claimed their names, and rebels rallied to them. Henry's response was severe. He paraded the real Warwick through London to discredit Simnel. He later condemned Warbeck and Warwick together to silence further threats. He had learned the lesson of mercy. Even the rumor of a rival could unseat a king. So were these kings and queens simply cruel? Or were they products of a world where family ties meant nothing, and a cousin's survival could mean the loss of a kingdom? When we look at the cousins they spared, we see not mercy, but instability, rebellion, war. And by the Tudor age, monarchs had learned the grim truth. Mercy was weakness. In our last episode, we looked at the cousins who were condemned. This time, we've seen the ones who lived, and the chaos they left behind. Together, they tell us something sobering about monarchy. In an age of fragile dynasties, it was never enough to wear the crown. You also had to silence the bloodline that threatened it. If you enjoyed this companion episode, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next on Meet the Muse. Thank you for watching.